Vibe 105.
All right, man, it's Apollo P, DJ Hotshot. This is the A team. We are missing Ada Ob right now, but we got special guests in the building with us right now. We got Rod Dollar and Jimmy Kang.
Peace.
Yeah, say what's up for the people, my guys.
What up, Toronto?
What up, Toronto? Happy to be out here. You know, we're at the Vibe 1055.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Loving
big.
it.
Live in the 6 right now.
Yeah, man.
The vibe is real. The vibe is the vibe.
What brings you guys over to Toronto right now?
You know, we out here right now for the GTA Rock the Mic. I guess it's the 6th edition for 2016. We're going to be at inside the JCA. You know, if you guys don't know where that's at, that's 995 Arrow Road in Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
So we're the judges out here, you know, from Wu-Tang Management. We got Rod Dollar, you know, he
The
he
Wu
leads
Worldwide
Wu
DJ
Worldwide
Coalition.
DJ Coalition. You know, me as the VP of Wu-Tang Management and the overseer of Protection Neck Records, we out here looking for talent.
All right, so I want you guys to kind of like, you know, tell the listeners out there what is really that's going to go on here at the GTA Rock the Mic.
Well, I mean, hopefully we're going to see some dope talent, man. I believe it's 18 artists performing. All of them are talented, so I heard the music should be very dope. It should be very entertaining. I mean, and we're looking to find something new, something different to, you know, to start working with and plant our flag out here in Toronto and in Canada and as a whole.
Yeah, I'm just looking for some great entertainment. I want someone to be, you know, it's not just about the lyrics or, you know, the hooks or whatever, the beat. I want to see that live stage performance where they're going to wow me. I want to just be like, oh, damn, this is crazy.
Yeah, before the interview, I asked you if you've been here before. You said you've been here a few times. And
Yep.
have you been here before the bubble and the rise of the popularity of Toronto recently got because of, you know,
No,
Drake?
I came here just in the past, like, 3 years I've been here.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's just recently.
So what do you think of the whole Toronto sound, and now that there's a spotlight on the city because of Drake, what do you think about the whole Toronto sound and what's going on in hip hop?
So far, just like hanging around out here, you know, in the hip hop community and the music out here, you know, it's just like everywhere in the States too. You know, like you guys, it's just caught on. You know, music's worldwide.
Right. And the good thing about it, I mean, is that, you know, you have Drake, but then you also have other talented artists here as well that just don't get the opportunity or the look that they need. You know what I'm saying? So at the same time, it is this hip hop community is still at its in a baby stage, so to say. You know what I'm saying? And it's still healthy. And I mean, you got a lot of people out here rocking, man. Like Tory Lanez. I like Tory Lanez.
You like Tory Lanez?
Yeah, he's dope. He's dope.
Nah, Tory Lanez definitely been putting in work over, you know, the past couple. He's been grinding for a long time.
Right.
And I feel like for Toronto, there's a lot of untapped potential. A lot of artists that, you know, don't get the shine that, you know, they would probably get if they were living in the States. Now that there's a lot of people paying attention. And the reason I asked you that question earlier was because you guys are a part of Wu-Tang Management, and you know, you're A&R and looking for artists, but Wu-Tang kind of has that connection to like the classic old school boom bap, you know, very raw hip hop style. And that style's kind of changed now, at least in Toronto. Toronto had that style, but now it's more of the slow trap, sing-songish sound.
That's everywhere. I mean, you're gonna have different genres in music. You have hip hop, and then you have hip hop.
Okay.
And then you got
there's
just
two
straight up
different
rap, and now they starting trap as a new.
Well, trap is the new type of rap that all the
Genre,
young
yeah.
kids are listening to.
Yeah.
You know, that's the turn up music.
Right.
So you know, that's what they want to listen to. That's what they're doing in the clubs. You know, conscious music is still out there for the artists. They're still touring, you know, all over Europe and everything, still getting paid. You know, doing all that stuff. But the young cats, I mean, it's a new generation. You know, try to adapt to it.
Yeah, so a lot of people around the 90s rap, they kind of look at our rap, or I want to say, yeah, me and him, we're young rappers.
Right.
They look at us like, what are you doing? We don't really understand it.
It's not. They don't really understand it. So from our perspective, you look at it like, all right, first of all, what are they saying? Like, you can't even understand it. If you were a hip hop artist back then, and you can't understand what the person is saying, and they can't articulate, then you're like, yo, this guy shouldn't even be on the mic.
Yeah.
But nowadays, it's actually, you know, a lot about the beats and the hooks and, you know, people dancing. That's the whole thing. It's a club atmosphere compared to the old days when everyone's just two-stepping kind of kind of just looking at things.
Head nodding,
Head
really, like
nodding.
they're
Right.
at the show, really just nodding and really taking it in, like
Exactly.
word for word.
Exactly.
As opposed to now, it's energy.
It's straight energy. That's what it goes by.
And a lot of people back in the time, they were like Wu-Tang most definitely were into that, the whole God body and 5% and stuff
Right.
like that. So I guess
Peace to the guys in Earth.
you guys are 5%ers?
I deal with
I'm
all
a-
types of
All right, yeah.
knowledge and science and things.
All right, what's today's mathematics, brother?
Oh, come on, man. Stop it. Stop it. Today's what, the 12th?
Yeah.
Knowledge, wisdom. You know what I'm saying? Come on. Like, it's too easy.
He's on point with it. And I think I like one thing, Jimmy, that you brought up is the fact that you got to adapt to it.
You have to.
And you guys being part of a management, that must be like the key thing for you guys right now.
Well,
or
right
in
now,
A&Ring.
right now in Wu-Tang management too, we have some trap artists. We got Rich Gates under Wu-Tang management. That's Waka Flocka's artist.
Okay.
We got Dope Boy Fly. That's Fetty Wap's artist that I manage, and they're both trap artists right now. You know, and they're down south in South Carolina living together right now, or working on projects and everything. So it's even as Wu-Tang management, as the music evolves, I'm a manager.
Yeah.
So I got to figure out what's right, what's right, and
You're gonna
what's
evolve
not.
with it.
Along with back in the days, working on Junior Reed's project and everything, managing him and stuff, that's a reggae, but I was still under Wu-Tang management.
Okay.
So
okay.
it's not just I'm here for raw boom bap music. I mean, I love that, but in the clubs, I like the turn up music, getting drunk, dancing.
I feel you.
So it's the difference of everything, and like the young kids growing up right now. I mean, that's what they're doing. It went from down south music to trap music.
Yeah.
And I got a question for you, Jimmy. When was the first time you got introduced to hip hop?
First time.
Good question.
You know what? I really got introduced to hip hop when I was chilling with all my boys and we were listening to NWA.
Yeah.
And Beastie Boys, Rodney O, Joe Cooley. I'm from LA, so that's what we grew up listening to. And it was like a wow factor with NWA because it was like me and my crew. We thought we were NWA. Like, yo, this is us. They're talking about us.
Yeah.
But multicultural. We were all. It was crazy. Our set was so crazy. We thought as we're like 12, 13, running around listening to hip hop. Like yeah, we're NWA. What's up?
And it's crazy how hip hop has that ability to kind of like bring cultures together and people
does.
identify with it even outside of let's say the African American race or
Of course.
group,
Well,
right?
what happened to rap is, back in the days when I was growing up, it was straight rap. My cousins were saying no rock, everyone doing all that, and it was straight rap. And they're like, oh, Jimmy, you're saying no rap. And then it started becoming hip hop.
Okay.
And then from hip hop, it became a culture. Now, in the hip hop culture, like right now, especially in this age, most of the people are growing up in the hip hop era, hip hop culture, where the hip hop artists are the rock stars right now.
Yeah.
That's why they're wearing tight stuff and stuff.
Yeah.
Going back to like the 80s when the rockers used to rock.
Right.
So it's like history repeats itself, and right now hip hop is at the prime where everyone's part of the hip hop culture or influenced by the hip hop.
Yeah, hip hop is a part of the fabric.
It's just music anymore.
It
That's
is.
why
Part
you,
of the
that's why you
fabric.
see
It's in everything.
every single race. Back in the days, if you're listening to rap, you're like, oh, it's a black thing, but oh yeah, you guys getting into it. But now it's just everyone's
It's
thing.
just part of the
what
part
you
of the
grew up
culture.
in.
It is.
Yeah, and it's not even a matter of being from the U.S. or a certain city or whatever. It's worldwide.
Yes.
It really, truly is universal. I mean, you can spin the globe, and everywhere you stop, hip hop is relevant.
You
know.
grew up in Germany for a little bit and then you moved to...
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed.
So wait, you were introduced to hip hop in Germany or when you flew back to the States?
Actually, the first time I ever really got introduced to that real hip hop was in California,
Okay.
because I moved from Germany in the second grade to California, and I started listening to stuff like Ice-T. You know what I'm saying? Ice-T, and then I, being from the East Coast, I started getting tapes and stuff sent to me from my cousins, and hearing different hip hop stuff that's going on over there. And I just started listening to everything, man. At that time, I was young and I was into DJing and stuff like that, and I just liked everything. I liked funk, R&B, the old stuff, but Ice-T was probably the first rapper that I probably really heard and was like digging what he was doing.
That's interesting. You know, it's actually great to have you guys on the show because you guys, I would say, have lived the hip hop culture. You've seen it from like basically the beginning
Right.
up until now. You've seen all the change. Like you mentioning Ice-T. Me and Apollo always bring up the fact that, you know, Ice-T was hating on Soulja Boy when he came up.
Yeah.
But like a lot of artists now are on the younger wave.
Of
Right.
course.
You know what
Right.
I mean? So
They're trying to keep up with what's going on now. You have to keep reinventing yourself.
Well, the thing right now that all the young cats got an advantage is back in the days, you have to have super talent and you had to have that look or that sound to get into the studio. Nowadays, everyone has their own studio at their house, you know, or wherever they could go to, you know, with the computer, make the music and get it mixed down in a program and everything. You don't
Yeah,
really need that
yeah.
much knowledge right now to even make music.
It's
And
the
then you could
access.
go straight to iTunes.
But the best thing is that for the young kids, what they got is this: social media is the number one key for your success right now.
Facts.
Even the older cats can't even catch up to the younger cats that knows the social media game. That's why the younger cats are dominating the whole music industry right now.
Facts.
So you guys feel that it's more the social media that's, we would say, leading to the success.
Social media
Has
is
a lot to do with it.
always leading to success. Even if back in the days when you didn't even have internet, TV commercials, advertisements, those are all media outlets. When you're listening to radio right now, that's a media outlet, so it's advertisement. So that's how everyone gets out there. But right now, it's very accessible to get out there because now you could have your own page, you could do anything and just put it out. And now this is where the one-hit wonders come from. It's an era of one-hit wonders. No one's buying albums. Everyone's just buying singles after singles after singles.
Well, can we say that the one hit wonder was like during the early 2000s as well?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Even up to this very day.
Even up till this very day, like, yeah, everyone always had those. Well, they made an album, but they had that one-hit wonder from the album.
Okay.
But people still had to buy that album before they could even get that single.
Right.
Okay.
It wasn't no go
Now it's
online
now
and
it's
just
like-
grab it
now
and it's
like,
there.
I got 32 gigs on my thing. So I could put like 1,000 songs. So I'm gonna put 1,000 singles that I like. Not I'm gonna put 20 albums that I like.
Yeah.
It's gonna be singles. There's, you know, in an album, most people like 2-3 songs. So they're like, oh, you know what? I don't have to buy the album.
Yeah,
I can
you
just buy
just-
3 songs.
Create your own playlist nowadays.
This is true. All right, so man, Jimmy and Rod Dollar,
Yes, sir.
you guys are both work for Wu-Tang Management.
Yes, sir.
How'd you guys even get involved with that?
Well, from college, I used to right after college, I started promoting like a little bar, and then the biggest nightclub in Central Mass opened up. They gave me a shot at promotions. Within like a couple months, I became the manager, and then within like a year, you know, I started general managing the whole place for 7 years. You know, started bringing artists through every weekend, so I got to meet everyone in the industry, and I would bring whoever I like, you know, whatever. It was my shit. So I'll bring this person. I became friends with everyone.
Yeah.
And after that, you know, I acquired a club of my own and just started getting really involved with all the artists. And in the hip hop game, Crumb Snatcher from Gangstar, actually, like, it was the craziest thing. You know, he used to come to my club. I didn't even know who he was. You know, but I love Gangstar. But I'm from the West Coast, so when I moved from the West Coast to the East Coast, I didn't even listen to East Coast music because it was like unheard of to listen to the East Coast music or bang it out in the car.
Yeah.
So the only East Coast music that really came out when I was in the West Coast growing up was Wu-Tang Clan, because they actually moved to LA. So it was like, oh my God, look at this sound is dope.
Yeah.
You know,
It
we
was
weren't even
different
we weren't even
from
allowed
LA.
to listen to Biggie.
Yeah, of course.
Unless you're watching TV or
Yeah.
you know, MTV or the box or, you know, stuff like that.
So those who, I guess, weren't living in that time, those listeners that weren't listening, was it that serious back then?
Oh yeah, it was super serious.
Like that's it. You could not play any Biggie.
All
in
right,
the
so
car?
from the West Coast, like
Yeah.
everyone's just like West Side, real quick. You had to know that shit. You know, it's just like every picture. It doesn't matter who you were. They're just like boom in every picture. That West Side East Coast East Coast war that they had. You know, and out of everyone, so we just grew up listening to straight up West Coast music, and then down south started coming up. Master P, you know, started
Yeah.
coming in.
Outkast.
Outkast
Yeah.
came in. You know. And during
MJG,
that time,
8-Ball,
during
cats
that
like
time,
that.
you know, Too Short always went to Houston.
Okay.
They started bringing back like the pimping situation around,
Oh,
like
okay.
teaching people about the game.
Mhm.
You know, when we're younger, this is what we're listening to
Yeah.
growing up. Like, oh, that's how you do it. and then you had Snoop that went to Master P and kind of like opened up the eyes for like everyone in the industry and the young cats. Like, yo, this dude Master P runs a label, sports agent. He's a real estate agent, and from
He's
right
independent.
There, right there, I was like, like, yo, I want to be that guy.
That's what you,
Owns
that-
his
that
own
was-
masters.
That was ill back then because you're growing up
It's unheard of.
thinking, damn, I'm just listening to rap. This is great. Now
Yeah.
it's like hip hop, and all of a sudden now it's a whole culture where hip hop is accepted.
You know, I feel Master P doesn't get his dues.
You know,
Because he's done in my opinion, he's done a lot independently. He's done it on his own. I remember watching one of his interviews. He said he started out with just a record store,
Right.
and started making his money, and then
In
started
Richmond,
going into the
California.
studio. Yeah, in Cali especially, and he had that reputation from the beginning to be that
Right.
entrepreneur. And I feel like a lot of people don't highlight that.
I think Master P, he had his shine, and he's still shining, but I think he fell back so he could live his life. You know, so you don't want everyone to be crowding you and everything.
Yeah.
The owner of VP Records, the biggest reggae distribution stuff. Those dudes, Mr. Chin and all them, they started with the record shop too, mixtape
Yeah.
and record
Yeah.
shop. It came out to one of the biggest reggae distribution companies in the world.
That's how you learn the business. You know why?
And that's
how,
why I have a
How do
record
you
shop.
become a distributor? Yeah, you know what I'm saying. They became distributors by dealing with records coming into their stores.
Yeah,
you know?
so like I said, yeah.
They learned the business, man. You have to learn the
Crumb
business,
Snatch,
man.
Crumb Snatcher put me on as in like, I started working with them, put them in the label, started investing in them, got to meet Premier, Guru and everything, started traveling all over the world. And from there, I started meeting all the different artists to, meeting up with RZA and Freedom and Divine and everything as, they pretty much said, hey, hop in here. And then RZA's cousin, Jamu Givens, that owns Wu-Tang Management Protection
Shout out to
Records,
Mook.
and Wu Worldwide DJ Coalition and everything. He gave me a shot, and it was a blessing. And since then, I've been carrying the torch, holding it down for everyone, trying to come up with new ideas, and find good dudes like Rod to run the DJ Coalition and things like that.
All right, man. Rod Dollar, man. You worked for Rockefeller Records.
Yeah, at one point I was a regional in Richmond, Virginia, so it was the Mid-Atlantic region.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, and you worked with DJ Clue and Jay-Z.
Yeah, I worked the Hard Knock Life
Yeah, man.
album, Professional 1 and Part 2, DJ Clue. It was fun, man.
Man,
It was in the 90s, man. It was dope. Late 90s. Rockefeller was king.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
So, can we say, did you ever get like spazzed out by Dame Dash? Like, did he ever try to come at you like
Nah.
that? All right, then.
Never really had any dealings
Solid.
with
You
him.
know what was crazy too, right?
Yeah.
What was crazy too is when I started managing Spliff Star, and
Shout out to Spliff.
I bump into this fool, right? I'm like, yo, Spliff, this is my man Raw. He's working for Wu-Tang Management and everything. And Spliff's like, I know that project. And I go, yo, how do you know him, Raw? And Raw's like, yo, I used to be touring with Busta Rhymes and Spliff all the time, working for them. It's crazy. Small world in the industry, though.
I lived in the same apartment with Spliff, man, in Hollywood on Sunset and Vine. Yeah, I was actually doing some road management work for Busta Rhymes, man. It was cool.
Would you say that the industry was fun back in the late 90s?
It's still fun now to me.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? It was fun then.
It looked
Because a
more fun
lot of
back then,
things
I'm
were
not gonna
still
lie.
new.
I mean,
You know what I'm saying? A lot of things were still new then.
But back in the
you know what I
days,
mean?
back in the days like that, like the artists didn't really know about the advances, how they got to pay back,
Yeah.
none of that. So
Mm-hmm.
they were just getting money from, like when I was with Crown, they're getting like $250,000. We're going out just spending it.
Yeah.
All right, we got a tour. They just gave us $250
Yeah.
for an album.
You gotta shoot videos. You gotta record an album.
Videos, and back in the days, videos were like
$30,000, $40,000, $60,000.
$40,000.
Money.
You could get it for like 2 G's and stuff,
Money, Yeah.
But they had the budget, and like a lot of artists are hurting because of the old time, because they didn't understand the publishing, they didn't understand the royalties,
Right.
they didn't understand the game. So compared to the young kids nowadays, they understand that. They're like, all right, we got the music out, well, you got to publish this, we're gonna do this and license this. So now even the young kids with the social media are getting paid more than some of the old cats.
Yeah, because they learned the digital game. This,
Yeah.
this is the era. It's the digital
of
era.
digital game where
It's the digital era.
everything is monitored and monetized.
Yeah.
So you could get paid off it like that.
Facts.
And I would say it's actually also a part like the access to information. One thing, the internet gives you so much information. If you want to start a business, you can Google it, right?
Right.
Back then in the 90s, you actually had to read books.
Yeah, you had
to get that information, get certified for it.
Or know somebody who was willing to
knows
share
how to do it.
information with you.
Yeah.
Back then, you couldn't even write a contract. You had to go to an attorney to write a contract. contract. But now, you know, you go to college, everything, you know how to write a contract.
Right.
It's like right there and then. It's like boom. So that's what I do. I be writing contracts, making sure everything's right. And I'm not an attorney, but I've been doing it for so long. It's just, you know, you just evolve through the whole thing.
You also have your own record label, straight up.
Yeah, I have my own straight up entertainment. Started that. I had Crumb Snatcher, and I also had Ed O.G., Jason and Slain, special teams. Big shout out to, you know, Ed O.G. for putting me on in the game too, you know, the underground circuit. And also Slain right now, you know, he's a big movie star.
Slane's on the bubble right now, boy.
You know, he was the first movie he did was with Ben Affleck, Gone Baby Gone, as a co-star. Second movie was The Town, as a co-star with Ben Affleck. Third movie was with Brad Pitt. I forgot what it was, but he was the co-star. He's in a new movie now, Central Intelligence, but he just came out. He just came out real quick. Usually, you know, the other movies he's like the co-star.
I watched that one. Central Intelligence is a bad movie.
So he was that white boy, the bald chubby white boy that came out next to Rock for a while and stuff. You know, but usually he's a co-star in the movies, and it's crazy how he started like. He used to come into the studio when we were under Straight Up Entertainment. We had our studio, and he would just sit there and write. He wouldn't even go home. He'd just sit there and just beats. Like, I'm like, yo, when you going home? He's like, nah, I'm just gonna sleep on the couch. and you know, when I wake up, I'm like, yo, it was straight dedication.
He was dedicated.
He made it. You know, doing his thing.
Man.
You know, congratulations to him. Yeah. So with the record label, what I did was I was pushing that, getting distributions through Redline, Traffic, just get big different things. But once I got into Wu-Tang management, what I did was I focused all my energy and mind into Protect Your Neck Records, building that back up. So we got a whole staff now, always hiring and currently changing up everything. And what I did was went around the whole country and gathered up around 175 artists around the country and gave them a chance for distribution. It's not saying, I sign you and I'll put my money behind you. It's like, no, if you're doing your thing and you're telling me you're doing your thing, then I'll give you an outlet. Now you show me what you could do, and if you're really doing it, then I'll push you. And then if you're doing it right, then we'll manage you and put you in Wu-Tang management. So we first put you in Protect Your Neck Records. That's to protect Wu-Tang management's neck. So that's what we call Protect Your Neck.
Okay.
And then from then, when you graduate, you get into the Wu-Tang management.
Okay. So thinking, I'm sure you guys have a lot of young artists that are, reaching out to you guys saying, okay, how can I get signed? Right. What is your advice for the young aspiring artists that's listening right now?
Wow. I mean, I would say, just stay focused, man, and learn the game. Learn how to write your own contracts, how to read your own contracts. If you're talking about getting a deal or somebody's entertaining, giving you a deal, know what that deal is about, so that way you know how to prosper in the game and not get caught up and tricked up, you know what I'm saying? So that way you be able to have a career without 10 years going by before your next album come out. That's what I would tell them. Everything else is easy. They recording at their crib now.
For me, I get emails and phone calls all the time, like say, hey, will you manage me? Will you manage me? Or you put me on the label, boom, 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 boom. And what I look for when they come at it, and everyone goes, I'm the best. Yo, I got this $1 million track. Like, this is gonna make it. What can we do? This is what I tell them. I said, first of all, let me see your social media. How many people are following you? Who's your fans? Show me you have more fans than me, because I'm a manager. I'm not an artist. I don't want to pop off like that. I just want to be in the back end to kick it. So you have to be more popular than me. Now, second of all, what shows are you doing? Are you doing a show once a week, once a month, or what's going on? Are you taking this as a hobby, or are you taking it as a career profession? Now, the other thing too is like, who's your team? You got a manager. You got your social media person. Like, who's your team? You can't do it yourself. You need a team.
Even if it's your team is your friends or your family member. You know what I'm saying?
Still your support, your team. And then it's where do you want to take this? Do you want to take this into just like your bubbling situation, or you want to take this mainstream, or what do you want to do? You want to win the Grammys? You want to win? Well, guess what? If you want to take it that far, you need money. That's real talk.
Yeah, you gotta put money
tell
into
anyone
your project.
you could blow up with no money and blow people's hoops or whatever. For real, you need money because you need money for a PR, you need money for a social media, you need money to take care of your team, you need money to travel, you need money to advertise, you need money to take care of like how you're dressed, because as an artist, people are looking up at you. You got to be fly all the time. So it's just everything. It's a concept. It's like you're putting yourself in a fantasy world for all the other people could be like, yo, I want to be like him. Right? And to get on the big time radios, you gotta pay. It's pay to play. What do you think? You hear the same 10 songs, no matter what DJ it is, on every big radio stations, because it's on rotation.
So I mean, I wouldn't even worry about radio, like mainstream radio. I really wouldn't. I mean, I would I would focus on finding the right song for the right time.
Okay.
Find that right song, something that's going to be more than just right now. You want a timeless record, you know what I'm saying? And go at the DJs, man. Like Jimmy said, you go at your PR. You got to have everybody in place. Get a PR person. You got to have a manager. You got to go at the DJs because the DJs are the ones playing the music.
A lot of artists now they try to skip the DJs now.
You can't skip. That's why they're not getting
DJs are exactly.
That's why
DJs
they're not getting run.
One of the most important aspects to this game.
Bottom line.
Because even the big DJs are like, this dude sucks. All he's doing is playing the same songs over and over and over again. No, he's getting paid and the program director is giving him a list to play, and he has to play that.
And they know the rules. You know what I'm saying? This is part of their game.
That's their job. But then once they go out to the nightclubs,
it's a wrap.
It's over. They're breaking music. They're playing whatever they want to, thinking what's gonna fit during that situation.
Right.
They test it. A lot of DJs will test a song, not even tell people, slip it in to see if people are dancing or not. Yeah. And if it's no one's vibing, they take it right off and put a normal song that people know. Mm-hmm. Things like that. And that's how you break records. And if you have a big DJ coalition with all the DJs,
you can't skip the DJs, man.
It's a wrap. You can't skip the DJs. That's one of the essence of hip hop.
Yeah,
you can't.
Where did that even come from? Like, cause DJs are like part of the 5 pillars of hip hop, right?
I don't know where it came from.
The thing that happened is because of the
5 elements, right? But I don't know where it came from. People skipping the DJs.
The thing that happened is because now they're skipping the DJs because they're like, well, we could put it in this social media, we could put it in this, we'll put it in this by ourselves.
Right.
Back in the days, you didn't have anything to do that. It's all about, yo, DJ, just play my music.
Play the song. Let them hear it.
Here's a CD. Yeah. Here's a CD. Like or here's a tape. Back in the days, like, here's a CD. Please play it. But now it's just like email or like, I don't need a DJ. I'll just advertise it on World Star Hip Hop. I'll just advertise it on Hip Hop DX.
Right, but when the DJs don't get behind the record, you just got a little bit of wherever you shared it at success. Yeah, when you could have, had the whole pie instead of just a slice. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but with the social media game, it changes the whole game. So it's like designer. Who's his DJ that blew him up? Who's his DJ?
That's true. Kanye's his DJ. Kanye played it, put it on the album. And he's out.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So that's what's happening. Back in the days, you needed the DJ's approval. Like, yo, I'm DJ Premier and I approve this. Yo, I'm Pete Rock and I approve this.
Flex had to drop a bomb. He had to drop a bomb. You know what I'm saying?
Then it's popping. It's certain things. But now, like I said, nowadays people are just bypassing the DJs, which is crazy.
It's insane, man.
He used to be a DJ back in, or you're still a DJ?
No, I just DJ'd for fun in my house, man. I tried to make it a career and nothing like that. I was just having fun. My brother had turntables.
Oh, okay.
So I used to, as a kid, mess with his stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you used to walk around with his crates to his shows and stuff? Oh.
He was just cut.
No.
They didn't walk around with no crates.
I'm not bringing no speakers to the event.
But yo, true story. When I first came into like touring and stuff like that, man, the first tour I was on, man, shout out to my aunt Rebecca Foster and her company Ujima Sound and Productions. First tour I was ever on, man. I remember it. I was happy, excited, and it wasn't glamorous or fun at all. Like the true story behind it was I had to carry bags, everybody luggage.
Oh man.
For the whole tour. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So when we check into the hotel tonight, My job is to make sure everybody rooms have their bags in it.
Oh man.
You know what I'm saying? And I had to pay the dues like anybody else. You don't. Nowadays, it's kind of like instant. It wasn't like that when I came up. You had to pay your dues. You had to learn the hard way.
No, nowadays you still pay your dues.
Depends on who
Is
you
it the
rocking
tour- is
with.
it the tour
Depends
person
on who
that's
you
still
rocking with.
paying?
You rocking with us, you gotta pay dues.
When I'm touring, if you're the youngest, or if you're not an artist, you better bring all the bags and everything to everyone's room.
Yeah, it's
that's
just
right.
Yeah,
Or you
it's
can
how
go
it
back
goes.
home.
It's how it goes. Man.
Yeah, but that's our old school mentality though. Like I like that though. But
Yeah, that's-
it's not really over here. It's like, all right, man.
Because it's more of a meaning behind it. It's like the grasshopper
It's-
thing. You know what I'm
It's
saying?
like, because when you're on tour and everything, there's a science to it. The name, when you name your tour, that's gonna happen in your tour. The name means
Right.
a lot too. It's like everything. There's all dynamics. And when you're on the road with your team, that's you and your team.
Yeah,
It
yes,
doesn't matter if you're arguing or whatever. You're in a different city in front of everyone that you don't even know. That's
Right.
your team. That's
Yeah.
your brother's keeper. Like you got to make sure everything's on point. Make sure
Yeah.
everything. So you just want the artist to focus on the music, the DJ to focus on what they're gonna play, the DJ and the artist to sit down and come up with the track listing, while you have other people like me running around talking to promoters, making sure the money's right, going to the venue before, making sure like, all right, this is sound check, make sure everything's right, boom, 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 and you have other people that's there making sure the artist and the DJ's right, catering to them as in our team.
Yeah.
Because when we travel, we don't just travel with artists. We travel with security. We travel with certain things. And, you know, we were right. You know, we always got to be right. We always got to be protecting ourselves while we're on the road.
Right. It's just a way. Like there's no number 2 on the tour bus, man.
No.
You can't do number 2 on the tour bus, man.
Yeah, because it takes up the whole thing.
You just brought up a rule right there.
That's when you get kicked out of the tour.
That's when you're off the tour. Like, and that goes for rock and roll artists, country and western. It's a rule of
It's
the
just a rule.
road.
They just have a bathroom pee and they don't take it.
Can't do number 2 on the bus, man.
No boo-boos on the bus.
No boo boo. Not only will it stay there forever, the smell. It's just like
But the reason
the driver is not going to want to pump it.
The reason why we have like the younger cats or people that you know, if it's all artists, then you have the younger dudes carry everything, you know. But if you usually have a group of people that actually does that, that's on the roadie. Those are
Right,
roadies.
it's a roadie. That's why I started. I started as a roadie, man.
you know, you teach-
started at the bottom.
But the thing is, like, the reason why you do that is to teach them the essence of like respect and everything in the game.
Right.
You know, because these guys been then doing touring like left and right forever, and you just have someone coming in for the first time that's popping, and they're touring with you. It's like it's their first tour. They gotta put in work. You gotta show
Right.
them, hey, this is what it really takes. But then like the next tour now, they're like, hey, do this.
Yeah, the next tour I was not carrying bags. Put it like that.
It's like every tour you're elevating. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So
I was not carrying bags on the
teaching
next tour.
process. That's what we do.
I want to ask you one question about the hip hop industry as a whole.
Yep.
A lot of artists, a lot of older artists, are saying that. I don't want to say older artists, but a lot of artists are saying there's no money in the industry. Is this true?
All right, so
Wow.
the money in the music.
Okay.
There's really no money in the music industry. In the music industry, I think that's wrong.
I
You know,
think I
because-
definitely think it's
because look,
wrong.
there's no money in music right now, as in the music itself, because everyone could download it for free, everything. But if
Yeah.
it picks up, you know, you're gonna get paid. But even if you get like 2-3 million, well, what does Scott have? Like
1.2 million?
No, 100. No, he just hit 100 million.
Total.
All right, so I have this pop artist that I manage
Yeah.
under Wu-Tang Management, Scott Isbell. He got
Shout out
over-
to Scott
over
Isbell.
100 million hits on SoundCloud and everything. He was like ranked right under designer for the whole time, all this stuff.
Right.
And we got a check for like $250.
Oh.
You know what I mean? What the heck is that? You know what I mean?
Hey.
So
Womp, womp,
so now let me tell you something. That's where I'm getting at. So music, right, itself, there's no money in music like that
Right.
unless it goes in soundtracks and stuff. You're getting your
Licensing.
licensing, all that, right?
All of that type of
But
stuff.
more than that, but the music industry, there's a lot of money because now you got all the followers and everything. Now you have endorsers giving you stuff, giving you money. Wear this, we'll pay you to wear this. Now you're on tour because of your music that's popping. And Wu-Tang Clan gets $150,000 a show. You know what I mean? Like, so you got to think of that. And there's artists out there that's even young artists that's getting $15,000, $10,000 a show just off their single. right? So now you eat off touring, and then you eat off merchandising.
Your merchandise makes more money than your tours if you're working
stuff.
right.
So the whole thing right now is a hands-on market because of the digital era. So people actually want to see, and to make money, you got to get the endorsement. That's why I always say get your social media up.
Right.
I'm not gonna endorse no one or pay someone's tour bus or anything. Put my logo on a tour bus when you only have 100 followers.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a good start.
seen that?
Don't get me wrong. That's a great start, but that you don't want to end there. You know what I'm saying? You want your fan base to grow tremendously.
Yeah.
Okay, so the money's in the industry in that you're not gonna make it exactly through the songs in this day and age,
Right.
but through other avenues.
But because of that song, so that's like the foundation.
yeah,
That you're gonna be able to tour, you're gonna be able to sell merch, you're gonna be able to get endorsements.
Right.
You're gonna be able to travel the world for free and look around and eat and meet the greatest people in life.
And I mean, you can use that music opportunity to create other opportunities for yourself as well. Fashion, movies.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Directing videos turn into directing movies. It's a lot of other things that coincide together, man, that makes entertainment. So you don't want to just leave and, come to the entertainment table with just one thing.
okay.
You know
So
what I'm
you
saying?
guys, like you mentioned, you said that was in the movie.
Oh, back in the day, Slang, yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So as a manager, do you look at those avenues for them as well? Like, how does he transition from an artist to?
All right, so as a manager, right, this is what I always tell people, right? If you break down the word manager, as a man, as they age, I'm their player. So the artists don't really need to talk to anyone. I'm their mouthpiece. I'm their player. The artists, if they want to do something, I'm their player. If they want to get in movies, then I'm their player. I'm the one looking for agents. I'm the one looking for things. Do you want to do a tour? Now I'm hitting up all the booking agents. So
Right.
basically, if an artist could think of something, I'm their player. I'm the one doing it. And then on top of that, obviously, I got to be innovative and make sure everything happens. And a lot of times, I got to strong arm people, like in certain shows where it's just like, yo, like if this doesn't happen, this is about to go down, like things like that. And it sucks to do that, but it's just part of the game. And then after, you're cool with them and stuff. But it's crazy because doing the shows and everything, whatever goes on, the artists always have to be comfortable. You don't even want the artist to know that there's a problem or nothing. You just want them to just chill.
Because that changes the whole vibe.
Yeah, it changes the whole energy and the vibe. The whole show will be messed up. They're not even going to give it 110%. They're going to yell at the sound man like, yo, sound man. Just because they're already pissed off. So before that happens, for my artists to succeed, I make sure that I'm running around getting the shit kicked out of me.
Right.
Oh, let me get this and this. Let's do this. Oh, you know what? This mic's cord's not long enough. Or you have cord, we want a cordless. You go find that and running around. You got a bunch of things. That way when the artist comes, they don't even know what happened. Most of the artists don't even know what their managers are doing.
Right. They just know that it gets done.
Because by the time it's done, they're done. And then you're in the car, you're chilling, you go back to the hotel, sleep, then you go to the next thing. They don't know what I'm doing. They don't know I'm running around. I'm calling. Oh, wait. You couldn't come up with something that we needed or something? Wait, hold on. No, this ain't happening. And now it's like arguing with the person to get things done and not letting the artist know that I even argued with that promoter.
Right. Managers oftentimes, man, fight for their artists, man. Good managers who believe in their artists and have that relationship, they're gonna fight for their artist, their client, so to say.
Yeah, like
'Cause you want the best for them. You want your client to win.
The people
man.
that I manage personally, that I'm with, I mean, that's like my brother and that's like my family. We buy houses together, we buy businesses together. I do everything with them because it's like, yo, I'm breaking bread with you. So let's figure out a way to create something else with this bread that we're breaking. That's what I do, and it's a lovely thing.
So you mentioned all the background work that a manager has to deal with. Are there times where you're like, or has there been a time where you're like, you know what, I'm not doing this. This is too much.
Oh my God,
I'm not with.
All right, so a lot of times that happens while you're on tour for like 2 months, 3 months.
Okay.
You're the same thing. Everyone's arguing. Everyone's arguing. As the manager, let's say like if 2 guys are arguing, then they put you in the middle as like the counselor. So now you're just like, damn, now I'm the counselor too. and then on top of that, it's like certain places that we're at, we have to be there in a certain time. And if you're
Okay.
with a bunch of them and they're just everywhere, you're like, oh shit.
And now you gotta be an
They're
organizer.
calling me like, yo, we only got 30 minutes to be over here.
The coordinator.
So, I'm running around making sure everything happened. By the time they're in the van or in the bus or whatever we're on, then they're like, all right, where are we going? Like, nothing happened.
Yeah.
You know,
Hey, and if
like-
it's a good night, they're like, I love this place.
and then if
Straight
like,
up.
a great show, everyone comes, they're like, yo, Jimmy, you're the best. You're the best. This is awesome. Next city you go to, let's say there wasn't that many people. Oh man, this shit sucks, Jimmy. Yo, you whack. Yo, this is crazy. You know
Yeah,
why
yeah.
we're here.
Why-
We should've
who brought us here?
Who brought us here? You know, it's just like, and then like the next day, yo, you're the man, Jimmy. So it's just like up and down roller
Okay.
coaster. So it's pretty much like, I feel like I wear a bulletproof vest. You can say whatever, anything to me, and it just bounces off me. I don't give a damn. I already know what I'm doing. I know what's right for your career. And if I'm managing you, they know that I'm the right for their career. So, or they wouldn't have me as their manager. You could go find another person.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not the one saying, let me manage you. You're the one that's saying, hey, I need a manager. Help me out.
Right.
That's when I step into the game and say, let's do it this way, this way, this way, this way. And some artists are very stubborn and they don't want to do it this way, this way, this way, this way, this
Right.
way.
But the other way didn't work, obviously.
Then
Or it worked for a while.
And then during that time, I fall back and work on another artist that don't even have a name or something, and I blow them up bigger than the artist that they already were. And then they're just like, what just happened?
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, he took your spot when you could have had that spot when you were already a star.
Yeah.
So you could have had that extra push instead of you had me work extra hard to get this no-name person to have a name compared to working with someone that has a name and bringing it to the major league all-star games, you know? That's how I look at things. You have people, just for fun in the playground. You have people that's trying.
Yeah.
That's the JV.
Yeah.
And then you have the varsity. Those are the people that's like, yeah, I made it. This is what's up. And then you have the major leaguers that's just content, that's doing their thing. And then you have the all-stars. It's just kind of like the sports system.
Yeah.
That's how I look at everything in life.
Okay, and you mentioned like some artists being somewhat stubborn at times. You guys also mentioned that you manage younger artists. Do you guys have that friction when you're trying to explain how things should work with the younger artists when they're used to things just coming out?
No, the younger artists, I love younger artists. They listen to whatever I tell them. I'll be like, listen.
They just excited to go. They like, let's go.
Oh, you need to do this, and this, and this. And they're like, I'm on it. And they do it because if they don't do it,
They're naive.
I'm like, yo, I'm not taking you. No, this is bullshit. Now to an older artist that's been there for longer than me in the game and everything.
Okay.
So it's just like, I'll tell them what to do, but I can't be like, yo, you have to do this, because to them, they're already rich and they're already like, yeah, but I like it my way.
Right.
And it's just like, it's kind of like, it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks.
And it's always a compromise, you know what I'm saying, in terms of what's going to work. You might put something on the table and whoever's idea was, you try to execute it and it just didn't work. Then you
Right.
go back to the drawing board.
And the older
know?
artists, they are the ones that I deal with. They already been in the majors. They already had those 2 million record deals
Right.
back in the days, multiple times. So they're used to that. So they're used to everything like being fed to them. Like everything is just like. Like
Always
oh,
right.
come here.
Everything is
Everything
a
is
certain
always
way
like-
every
well,
time.
Especially because most of the older artists have a foundation, and in their foundation, they got those yes men. They're just like yes, yes, and I'm here like, no. What do you mean yes?
Now, how could you say yes
How
to
could
that?
you say yes to that? Like, are you crazy? And then they'll be like, yeah, but Jimmy, you're right. Da, 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 da. And then I'll go and talk to them like, hey, we need to do it this way. And then all of a sudden they're yes men's again to them. It's the craziest things. So I think working with